No, it doesn't. It's like many of the other lawsuits that are simply targeting an unpopular political candidate. That's not the way we do it in America. That's the way they used to do it in many of the kind of South American totalitarian regimes. For my friends, everything, said one dictator. For my enemies, the law. And that's what they're trying to do. My colleague Larry Tribe wishes that the rest of Donald Trump's life will be devoted to defending against lawsuits. They're trying to find anything. Look, if there are legitimate lawsuits, if there are people who have been hurt, everybody has the right to sue under our Constitution. But to be searching for lawsuits, to be going after them, it's the old Stalin, Lavrenti, Beria tactic. Beria, the head of the KGB, said to Stalin, "Show me the man, and I'll find you the crime." They are looking for crimes. The Attorney General of New York ran against her opponent, promising, her campaign promise was to get Trump. The District Attorney of New York has hired special new prosecutors to try to get Trump. If Trump was as guilty as people say he is, the crimes would be obvious. They'd be there. You wouldn't have to search for them. The lawsuits would be there. The KKK statute was written after the Civil War to try to prevent people from using violence. Yes, Trump threatened. What he threatened to do is primary people, run against them. Right. That's part of the American system. That doesn't come within the KKK statute. So I think the KKK lawsuit will be thrown out of court. And the NAACP should remember that if they could use it against Trump, opponents of the NAACP will be able to use that very same statute against the NAACP and other African-American organizations like Black Lives Matter and others. So, right. You know, be careful when you invoke laws like that that are so vague and open-ended.
Well, that's the problem with the liberal ideology in general with me, and I just talked about this in the last segment, which is there's no and then what. Everybody just, it's here and the now. And my issue with this is like, look, they're trying to say that he coordinated with like the Proud Boys and some other, you know, pro-white supremacist groups, which there's no evidence that I've seen of.
No. No, look, I have only one criticism of you, and that is I think you too often lump liberals and radicals together. I'm a liberal.
Fair point.
Good, decent liberals don't try to misuse the law. Good, decent liberals are open-minded, they have tolerance. They are willing to listen to opposing point of views. The problem is under Trump, as the result of the hatred to Trump, many who are formerly liberals have moved over to the intolerant radical movement. Again, Professor Tribe is one of them. He used to be a liberal. Now he's given up all of his liberal ideologies and moved to radicalism. He doesn't care about due process. He doesn't care about free speech. He doesn't care about any of the things that identify one as liberals. And too many people have followed that course, turned from liberalism, which is a good thing. It's like conservatism. You can be a liberal and a conservative at the same time if you believe in civil liberties. But if you become a radical leftist or a radical right-winger, you give up on process. You give up on free speech. You don't need to have opposing points of view because you know the truth. You don't need due process because you know that Trump's guilty. You know who did it. If it's somebody on the other side, they're guilty. If it's somebody on your side, they're innocent. That's the end of democracy when we give up on due process and free speech.
You know, Alan, I'm really glad you brought that up because, you know, I think you said something that people across the board are like, yeah, look, my mom used to be liberal. She used to be very liberal. And now she's like, she looks around, she says, I'm conservative. My views that used to be liberal are now conservative. And I think that's what the majority of the Liberal Party or the Democratic Party has moved so far left that they've left people like you standing there being like, the only people I have to associate with is conservatives on this because we believe in the principles of free and fair legal system and things like that. Real quick before we go, I want to get one question in.
Sure.
How does President Trump stop this? Does he just have to go on a vexatious litigation stomp parade and just start suing everybody back after he wins these things?
I think that would be a mistake. I think the best thing is to hire a very, very good, very serious law firm. Let them handle it. You know, I'm involved now in lawsuits. I'm involved in a lawsuit against CNN. I'm involved and will be filing a lawsuit against Netflix, who have defamed me. I'm leaving it to my lawyers. They take a lot of time, and it does cost a lot of money. But I don't think Trump has to be involved. Yes, he'll have to be deposed. He'll have to answer interrogatories. But lawsuits, I think it was Learned Hand who said, short of surgery, the thing I would fear most would be a lawsuit, and he was a judge. So lawsuits can be very vexatious, but if you know how to handle it and compartmentalize it and put it in the right place and leave it to the lawyers, I think that it's possible that he can go on and live the rest of his life out without more than 10% of it being devoted to lawsuits. Now, 10% is a lot, and he has to fight back. But by bringing his own vexatious lawsuits, I don't think that's the right approach, because that will keep him busy. If you're a plaintiff, you actually have more responsibilities in a lawsuit than if you're a defendant. So I think he should be fighting back, but not beginning litigation unless it's legitimate, decent litigation. Then, of course, he should bring it.
Right, sir. You know, like I'd heard about your your lawsuits with CNN, but is your lawsuits with Netflix public, or was that just made here?
Well, we're going to do it. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to do it. We're preparing the lawsuit. I was defamed on the show by a woman I never met, accusing me, and Netflix broke their promises to me. They said they'd give me an opportunity to respond to her and to put on all my evidence. I have tape recordings of her lawyer admitting I didn't do it. I have her emails admitting she never met me. Netflix promised to put all that on the air, and they just lied through their teeth and kept all of that off the air and didn't give me an opportunity to respond when I challenged her. So they're going to hear from my lawyers, but my lawyers are taking care of it, and I'm living my life, writing my books, writing my op-eds, and being